Good morning, guys. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're watching from, and welcome again to this episode. So today I'm going to talk about the documentation that's needed when you're traveling outside the country. To be specific, Tanzania, Uganda, within the East and Central Africa. This also covers into West Africa and also South Africa. I recently did a trip to Tanzania, and I just like to let you know the documentation that was required to have, the preparation that I did. I made a video on the preparation of the car, and that's you can watch that on my previous. It's one of the previous videos. But now this is just about the documentation that was needed. When I was traveling outside the country using a self-drive into Tanzania. So basically there are two ways, and you can either go by bus or you can self-drive. So when you're going by bus, these are the documents. I have the documents here with me, and this is basically what is needed. Goes without saying, you first need a passport. This basically you need this to travel all around the world. I don't think there's any country you can go into without having a passport. Even East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, South Africa, you basically need a passport to travel anywhere in the world. So for East Africa, there's a temporary passport you can get. It's called an e-passport. You can get it on the Kenyan e-citizen platform. Those are specifically for people who have probably just maybe it's a short notice, short travel notice, and you need to go to one of these countries. You can get that passport. Or for someone who really isn't someone who is not into traveling outside the country, you can opt to have that temporary passport. But I would suggest that you have the blue Kenyan passport. Why am I insisting on this? It's because at times it's better to present your passport to another embassy with a stamp. Even if it doesn't have a visa, with a stamp, your chances of traveling further outside are probably enhanced when you have a stamp on your passport. This actually goes well when you present your passport to the embassy. They'll be like, oh, this guy's traveled before. So your chances of getting a visa to any other country would actually are increased when you have your passport stamped. So I would insist on having the blue passport. That is when you're traveling by bus. Make sure you have your blue passport. Now the next document you'll need is a yellow card fever. Looks like this. I got this in 2016 when I was traveling to Nigeria, so it is still valid. Should be running for 10 years. However, I'm made to understand that the recent yellow vaccines run for life. I'm not quite sure. I need to find out more about that. But you need this yellow fever card. This is for all African countries. I don't know why we still do the yellow fever. I don't know if there's a risk of people contracting yellow fever. I'm not quite sure. Probably you can add your comment down below, and maybe let me know why we're still traveling with yellow fever cards to African countries. Yet when you go to Europe or the US or any other country outside the continent of Africa, you're not required to have a yellow fever. I need to find that out, and if there's anyone who knows more about that, kindly indicate on the comment section below so that we know why Africans still travel with the yellow card fever. So these basically are the two documents when you're traveling by bus to Tanzania, to Uganda. You need these two documents. These are must, they're mandatory. Another document that is needed, I'm not quite sure, but I didn't produce that document, is the yellow fever certificate. I wasn't asked that at the border, so I don't know. I think it's slowly dying. People, the border points are not actually keen on requesting the yellow fever certificate, but still it's good to have it at hand just in case you're asked. Now for those who are traveling self-drive, those who are doing a self-drive, besides these documents, there are other more documents. It doesn't stop here. There are other more documents that are needed. First off, you need your car's logbook. If you're doing a self-drive, you need your car's logbook. Yeah, if the car is not yours, you probably borrowed the car from a friend. You probably using a company car. You also need, you require a logbook from these companies or from your friend. They'll have to issue the logbook. And if the car is not yours, in case this is needed, I would suggest you travel with this document, a letter of authority informing the immigration guys that you borrowed this car from someone, and you also, or probably you've borrowed this car from the company, from a company. A company has lent you to drive this car into another country. So you need the logbook and a letter of authority. This could be in terms of an affidavit, not necessarily, but I suggest if you're using someone's car, you have this document standby, because you never know. They can always ask you, hey, why are you going to sell this car? That's the first question they asked. They could probably ask you at the border point, are you going to sell this car for parts? Are you going to give it away to someone? So you need your logbook, and this logbook, probably you leave it at the border point. Yeah, and if you're getting into one border and you'll be living through another different border point, I think there's a provision for you to travel with your logbook into, instead of having to leave it at the customs at the immigration office. So make sure you have your logbook intact. The second document that's needed is COMESA yellow card insurance. This is how it looks like. It's written COMESA Cat John yellow card. Basically, this is an insurance, just like your local insurance that you use on your roads. So this insurance covers you outside the country. And one thing I also noticed that if this insurance, you have to indicate the number of people traveling. If you're 2 people, 3 people, the insurance has to cover the number of people traveling. It's better to have more people. If you are not certain about the number of people going, it's better you have more people on the insurance, so that later on, maybe if someone exits, you're still on the safe side having this document. So this you can get from your insurance insurer, the company that insures your vehicle. I think they're able to offer this for the COMESA. So those are basically the 2 documents you need to arrive with at the border point when you're doing a self-drive. Now, it doesn't end there. When you're done with the exit, exit from the Kenyan side, now entry into the Tanzania side, you'll be taken to the customs, where you'll be given a C32 form. Basically, this is just a permit. It's called a C32 form. It was indicated import declaration form, but at the border they call it a C32 form. I didn't know what it was. So I was asked to obtain that. It's a permit you get from the Kenyan side, customs side, and then you also get it from the Tanzanian side. So after clearing my passport and yellow fever and everything, I was sent to the customs part, and I was told to obtain a permit, C32 form. It's called a C32 form. So basically, this permit allows you, when you're issued this permit from the Kenyan side, it's like the Kenyan side is granting you authority to drive this car into another country. That was issued me on the Kenyan side. I got to the Tanzanian side, and I also had to get another C32 form at the Tanzanian side. So this basically, you need to, it's Tanzania granting you permission to drive that car in their own country. So there are 2 forms I got. There are 2 C32 forms, which came in handy, especially when I was stopped by cops. I just issued out the C32 form, and I was told to go. So this form is free of charge when you're going to spend less than 2 weeks in the country you're driving into. Anything more than 14 days, you'll have to pay now for the permit. Alternatively, you can also get a carnet de passage. This is basically a passport that belongs to your car. Just the way you have your passport when you're going to another country, your car also needs a passport. So this is for people who are going to be spending more than 2 weeks into another country. You need a carnet de passage. That can also be issued by AA. The company AA issues that. Yes, I don't know if other insurance companies issue that, but I'm quite familiar. I'm quite certain that AA will issue that document. Yeah, basically, those are the documents that I was required to give, and those are the documents that I got while traveling to Tanzania. Now, if there's anything you think I'm missing out, then yeah, I think you can also note down on the comment section. Yeah, now my experience with the Tanzanian road was quite amazing. Yeah, just after exiting Namanga border, barely 5 minutes into the trip, there they were, the Tanzanian cops in white uniform, and there's some in beige. I was prepared for that, and what got me, what they didn't even ask for the documentation. I was stopped. They checked out the car, walked around the car, and kindly asked me to step out and open my boot, which I did. And the first thing he asked me was, "This is very important. Do you have a fire extinguisher?" He told me, "Yes, I do." "Do you have a first aid kit?" I said I did, and told me to produce them. Yeah, so I removed my fire extinguisher and my first aid kit, opened them up, checked them, and so everything was okay. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting this cop to ask me for these items. So when you're traveling to Tanzania, make sure you have a first aid kit and a fire extinguisher. You don't want your car catching flames by the roadside. We've had cases of cars catching flames by the roadside, and no one has a fire extinguishers. Even the cars passing by don't even have fire extinguishers where they can, help out their fellow colleagues. Fire extinguisher and first aid. Make sure the first aid kit everything is intact. You're not given. It's not incomplete. Yeah, make sure everything is intact on the first aid kit box. Yeah, so those are two things that are also needed while you're traveling to Tanzania. Yeah, the roads are quite good, though Kenyan roads are wider, but Tanzanian roads are well paved, well marked. The signages are just top tier. I mean, it would take talent for you to get lost in Tanzania. When you get into a town, there's a sign indicating that you're getting into town A. Yeah, when you're exiting that town, there's a signage indicating town A, but now it has a strike. It's a strike means there's a crossing, means that you're at the end of that town. Yeah, a few meters after that, there's signage now into the next town. I found that to be that was really, what do you say? That was really informative. I mean, you didn't get lost easily, and you'd actually know where you're going. And it was all the way into Dar es Salaam city. One thing I also noticed is that Tanzania will indicate the number of bumps ahead on the signages. If there are 2 bumps, 3 bumps, that will be indicated. And I think this is something that highway authorities in Kenya can borrow from Tanzania. We've had cases in Kenya where the route you normally apply to go to work doesn't have bumps, and you sleep tonight. The next morning you're going to work, you find serious bumps have been erected and no signage at all. We had a case like that in Kenya, I think sometime in 2022, where cars were really damaged. There was no signage. I mean, overnight, these bumps were erected, and people really had their cars damaged. I think this is something we can borrow from Tanzania. So Kenya road authorities, please make sure when you're erecting bumps, make sure there's a signage. Make sure the signages indicating the towns you are driving into, and there's a signage indicating that your town you're exiting. Yeah, another thing which I encountered on the road was Tanzania is very. Before I get to the scenic side, let me talk about the cops. I don't know. This Tanzanian cops they're kind of intrusive, but in a diplomatic way. Yeah. I mean, you'd get stopped by cops, and then they would ask you, "Can you kindly step outside the car and open your boot, open your whatever it is that they need you to do?" They would go out, do it themselves. They would ask you to kindly, tafadhali, tafadhali toka nje ya gari utufungulie mkoba wako. Is it mkoba? Open your bags, yeah. Man, Kiswahili. Yeah, so that was one good thing with Tanzanian cops, and I think that was It's basically good. It enhances road safety. It's also the safety for other road users, and also it's as a safety feature for themselves. Yeah, however, there's one incident at night. I drove all the way. I drove up to, I mean, the journey was so long. The journey was really tiresome. The reason is because we had these signages with the speed limit signages. In most towns, you cannot go above 50. When you see a 50 sign, just go 45, 40. You'll be on the safe side. I mean, these people have cameras installed along the road. I don't know where these cameras are situated, but I was told, I knew before, that cameras are installed along Tanzanian roadside. So when you see a 50 zone, make sure you do 40, 45, and that really helped us. We didn't get into trouble with any cops. Yeah, and that kind of, if you're really planning to drive into Tanzania, just know that you're going to have a really long journey, because you'll have to be watchful for the speed limit zones. I didn't do anything above 100 kilometers per hour. I was, being the first time, I was a little bit fearful in case, I kind of flout the traffic rules. So I just maintaining 80 and 100 kilometers per hour. When I see the 50 signage, yeah, I stop. I kind of just reduce my speed until the end of that. When I get the 50 signage strike, then I proceed on. I proceed on with the journey. Yeah, so 50 speed limit zones, you'll have to really be careful about that when you're driving in Tanzania. Yeah, I was stopped along the journey. The journey took almost 15 hours. Because, man, we got to Arusha, and we stayed around. We spent a night in Arusha, and left the next day for Tanzania. However, the mistake we made was, we were just walking around Arusha, just needed to find out how this town is, and just basically just tour around Arusha. And one mistake we made was that we left there at 1 p.m. the next day, which was very late, leaving for Dar es Salaam. Yeah, we had another 8 hours to drive. Yeah, with the 50 kph zones, the journey was going to be slow and long. Yeah, so we left Arusha at 1 and started for Dar es Salaam. Yeah, driving along the way, stopping by, checking outside. Now, the good thing about a self-drive is you can only stop anywhere. Tanzania is so scenic. We would stop, make stops everywhere, take pictures, and just marvel and appreciate the beauty of Tanzania. And Tanzanians, I think, you have a really beautiful country. Yeah, it's really impossible for someone to just drive into Tanzania without having to stop and take pictures of the scenery. And palm trees all over, man. It's a really beautiful place. Yeah, so as we are going on with the journey, I think I got to a point where I was so exhausted. That was around 11 o'clock into the night. We were still driving. Yeah, at around midnight, we came across a roadblock. And I believe these were cops. They initially didn't look like cops, because I didn't see the normal Tanzanian police with the white uniform. Yeah, these were plainclothes policemen, and there are a few cops in bay. There was a group of people. They stopped us, and normally when I'm stopped, the first thing I do is put down my windows and open the center lights so that cops can see who is inside the car. It's a really good practice, so that they kind of feel safe. They kind of feel, okay, this person knows what he's doing. Yeah. So they stopped us, and we were asked to step outside the vehicle, and they said they're doing a search. Man, these people they just didn't dive into searching your vehicle. Tanzanian cops, man, people are so courteous but invasive. Yeah, so basically, we were asked to step outside the vehicle, and they told us that they want to do a search. And we spent almost 30 minutes, these people searching the car. They went into every crack and crevice, searching for I don't know what. Yeah, the side pockets, the glove compartments, the center console, the rear compartments. Everything was searched. The carpets. Just underneath the carpets, lifting the carpets up. I don't know what they were searching for. Yeah, And one interesting thing that I really noticed with the cops is, and big up to Tanzanian cops, is I had this sling bag that had money that I'd exchanged at the border, and it had 200,000 Tanzanian Kenyan shillings. That's the money we had exchanged at the border. Yeah, so this cop opens my bag and goes through the documents and sees the notes, and they pulls me aside and tells me, this bag has notes and I want to go through this bag. Yeah, so he goes through, takes out everything, takes out the money and puts them back. Goes through the bag, and when he's done, he gives the sling bag to me and tells me, can you count your money and make sure that's the money that was there? And I was like, what? Hey, all right, this is courtesy in another level. I mean, I didn't believe that. So I just told him, oh, it's okay. I've seen you search the bag, but I didn't see you pick anything, so I'm okay with that. That was really something strange. Once again, I'm going to compare that to Kenyan cops. I mean, if our local cops would have seen that bag with that amount of money, I think it would have been a different story. Yeah. So they were so respectful. Yeah. One thing I noticed is no male cop will search female items, and no female cop will search male items. So anytime they were searching the bags, they would ask you, mkoba ni wanani? In your madam. They don't touch it. Yeah, the lady cop would come and ask, is this you mkoba ni wanani? Like in here, this for the guy. So female cops are not allowed to touch male stuff, and male cops are not allowed to touch female stuff. And I think that kind of respect is something that is to be appreciated about Tanzania. And it was a great thing. It was a great experience. Yeah, so we stood there almost 30 minutes. These people going through the bags, checking everything. Yeah, we found that strange, but there's a YouTuber who also had mentioned something like that had happened to them. They were traveling and they were stopped, and they were told to step outside, and everything was checked. Yeah, so at the back of my mind, I was expecting that this would happen. So to me, I was okay. Yeah, when they were done, they let us go, checked everything was okay. They actually asked us to check if everything is okay. Yeah, we had a couple of drinks in the car, yeah, some money, and just basically told us to check if everything is okay. And we were let go, and we set off. We continued on with our journey. That was around midnight. Yeah, I was still driving. Upon reaching a town called Bagamoyo, I think I was so exhausted. That was around 1:30 a.m. in the night. I was so exhausted I couldn't drive anymore. So I decided, man, let me just get into a petrol station, park by, and just get some rest. Yeah, so I got into Bagamoyo. After Bagamoyo, one thing before getting to Bagamoyo, there's a police stop again. Yeah, and this I mean, in every clutch there's always a bad egg. Yeah, so this policeman actually just made our experience now something somewhat different. This guy stops me in the middle of the night at around 1:30 a.m. and tells me that I overtook a car. I overtook a car. I kind of crossed a yellow line and was overtaking along a yellow line, which wasn't true. I was so exhausted and I was really driving at low speeds just to be careful. Yeah, and I just knew, this is just a bad cop. Yeah, so he asked me for my documents. I gave him the C32 form on the Tanzanian side, and he told me that he's going to return this document unless now I have to pay the fine of going through crossing a yellow line, which I didn't. Well, I didn't want to argue with him, and my Kiswahili was not so good, so I couldn't even speak for myself in Kiswahili. I really tried. And this cop tells me, "You're from Kenya, right?" "Yes." "Just speak in English, I'll understand." Well, yeah, I did that, and I didn't want to seem like, like I know I'm on the right, that Kenyan attitude that we normally have with cops in Kenya. I know my rights. I can do this and this and this. Yeah, I didn't want to do that with that cop, so I accepted my mistake, and he told me I have to pay. How much was it? 10, was it 30? I'm not quite sure. It was equivalent of 1,500 Kenya shillings. Yeah, so I had to bargain with him. I told him, nimekubali makosa, I made a mistake, and tafadhali nisamee. So he went and he was just marked. So he told me to give him 10,000 Tanzania Kenya shillings. Yeah, which I had. So that's an equivalent of 500 bob. Yeah, so I gave him that, and yeah, to me, man, that copper, if I, man, so it's only that if I had printable words, colorful words, I would just mention them. But man, yeah, he was one of the bad cops we met along the route, and man, the experience was not good. But anyway, he doesn't spoil for the rest of the nice, courteous cops that we met along the route. Yeah. So after that incident, around 30 minutes, I stopped by Bagamoyo, drove into a petrol station. Yeah, parked the car, and man, I was so exhausted. And just took a rest. So slept into the car up to until 7 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, when I felt I was a little bit energized. Yeah, only from then on we just drove all the way slowly into Tanzania. It was around 67 kilometers to Tanzania. Man, that journey was long. If you're planning to go to Tanzania, just be ready to drive. If you're doing a self-drive, be ready to just drive. And it's okay to stop by the roadside, take a nap, have a rest. It's okay. It's for your own safety and for the safety of other road users. Yeah. So yeah, we got into Tanzania well. It was a beautiful city. It was it was an okay place, and yeah, and that's how basically how my self-drive journey to Tanzania was. Yeah, if there's anything that probably I've missed out, probably if you have a different experience, you can also mention down on the comment section below, and let me also know what your experience was. Before driving to Tanzania, somebody scared me and told me that those cops are going to really harass you and they don't like Kenyans. And from my experience, that is not true. That kind of put some fear in me, and I was like, I decided to drive all the way. Let me just go and experience this for myself. If you're good with the cops, if you're cooperative with the cops, they won't disturb you, and you can comfortably drive into Tanzania as long as you have your documentation ready, you have your items in order, everything just has to be there, your car is in order. I also saw that they are checking the car tires just to make sure that they're not out of tread, they're out of tread. Yeah, so if everything is in order on your end, then there's no need to fear the Tanzanian cops. They're just curious. Where are you from? What are you going to do in Tanzania? Like, do you have your items ready? And basically, that's it. They just let you go. Actually, most of them were asking me about the Gen Z issue we had in Kenya, the protests. Yeah, so some of them really just wanted to know what took place, what was happening. There's one cop even stopped us and just engaged us in stories, telling us how Tanzania, giving a scenario of how Tanzania would be if they had a case of the Gen Z issues that we had in Kenya. Yeah, and at time I was just getting bored. Okay, can you just finish up fast so that we can proceed on with our journey? Yeah, but I had to be nice, I had to be kind and just listen to him, give him the stories. I think after that he realized, hey, this guy is getting bored, and he let us go. Yeah, so basically those are the issues we had. That's my experience on driving to Tanzania. Yeah, and if this video was informative, if this video was helpful, if this video you've gained some knowledge and you're planning to do a drive, yeah, you can also, if there's anything probably I haven't explained well, you can hit me on my email. Yeah, just ask me questions about the experience. But basically, that was it. Yeah, if you really like the video, kindly just comment or like, share, and subscribe, and also let me know your thoughts on the video. Bye bye. This money has been confusing me ever since I got to Tanzania.